The morning sun cast long shadows across the military training grounds as Elena Rodriguez carefully cleaned the barrel of her rifle. Her hands moved with practiced precision, though her heart still raced every time she touched the weapon. 3 weeks into sniper training, she remained the only woman in a squad of 12 hardened soldiers, and the weight of their skeptical stares never left her shoulders. Elena had grown up in a small town where her father taught her to hunt deer in the early morning hours. She could hit a target at 200 yards before she turned 16, but military precision was an entirely different beast. Here, missing by an inch could mean the difference between life and death for an entire unit. The pressure was suffocating, yet she refused to let it show. Sergeant Martinez walked between the trainees, his weathered face scanning each rifle with the intensity of a hawk hunting prey. He stopped at Elena's station and examined her weapon without a word. His silence spoke volumes in this place where praise was rarer than rain in the desert. She had learned to read the subtle signs of approval in his unchanged expression. The other soldiers in her squad had varying reactions to her presence. Some treated her with professional courtesy, understanding that she had earned her place through the same brutal selection process they all endured. Others, like Jackson and Thompson, made no effort to hide their belief that women had no place in combat roles. They whispered comments just loud enough for her to hear, questioning whether she could handle the psychological pressure of taking a life. Elena's bunk was positioned at the far end of the barracks, a deliberate choice that gave her some privacy, but also emphasized her isolation. She spent her evenings studying ballistics charts and weather patterns while the others played cards or shared stories from previous deployments. The loneliness was a constant companion, but she had learned to find strength in solitude. During her childhood years helping her father run their small ranch. After her mother's death, her shooting scores placed her consistently in the top 3 of the group, a fact that both impressed and irritated her fellow trainees. Captain Williams, their commanding officer, had pulled her aside after the second week to acknowledge her natural talent, while warning her that talent alone would not guarantee survival in the field. Real combat situations involved variables that no amount of range practice could fully prepare her for. The training facility sprawled across several hundred acres of diverse terrain, from urban simulation areas to dense forest and open desert. Each environment presented unique challenges that tested not only marksmanship skills, but also the ability to remain hidden, move silently, and make life or death decisions in split seconds. Elena found herself drawn to the forest environments, where her childhood hunting experience gave her a slight advantage over her urban-raised squad mates. During hand-to-hand combat training, Elena faced the additional challenge of being smaller and lighter than her opponents. However, her father had also taught her basic self-defense, and she supplemented this with extra training sessions in the early morning hours before official activities began. Her determination to excel in every aspect of sniper training was evident to anyone paying attention, though few bothered to look beyond their preconceptions. The psychological evaluation sessions were perhaps the most challenging aspect of training for Elena. The military psychiatrist probed deeply into her motivations, her ability to compartmentalize emotions, and her capacity for making difficult decisions under extreme stress. These sessions forced her to confront uncomfortable truths about what she might be required to do in service of her country and her unit. Elena's relationship with her father had been complicated by her decision to pursue military service. He supported her choice but worried constantly about her safety and the emotional toll that combat could take on his only child. Their weekly phone calls were carefully monitored, but she could hear the concern in his voice every time they spoke. She reassured him with stories about her training successes while carefully omitting details about the more dangerous aspects of her preparation. The daily routine at the training facility began before dawn with physical conditioning, followed by classroom instruction on topics ranging from enemy tactics to equipment maintenance. Afternoons were devoted to practical exercises that gradually increased in complexity and realism. Evening hours included additional study time and equipment preparation for the following day's activities. The schedule was deliberately exhausting, designed to test each trainee's ability to perform under extreme fatigue. Elena's personal motivation stemmed from a desire to prove that women could excel in any role they chose to pursue, but also from a deeper need to honor her mother's memory by serving something greater than herself. Her mother had been a nurse who died treating patients during a natural disaster, and Elena saw military service as a way to continue that legacy of selfless dedication to others. The weapons training progressed from basic marksmanship to advanced techniques involving moving targets, low-light conditions, and extreme-range shooting. Elena discovered that her smaller frame actually provided some advantages in terms of stability and concealment, though she had to work harder to handle the recoil of larger-caliber weapons. Her shooting journal filled with detailed notes about wind patterns, temperature effects, and equipment adjustments. Rumors circulated among the trainees about their final evaluation, which would supposedly involve a realistic combat simulation that would determine who advanced to specialized sniper school and who was reassigned to regular infantry units. The competition was fierce, and alliances formed and dissolved based on perceived strengths and weaknesses. Elena remained largely outside these political maneuverings, focusing instead on her own preparation and improvement. As the third week of training concluded, Elena felt she was finally beginning to earn grudging respect from some of her fellow trainees. Her consistent performance and professional attitude were harder to dismiss than some had initially hoped. However, she knew that the real test lay ahead, and that her journey toward becoming a military sniper had only just begun. The morning sun that had witnessed her careful rifle cleaning would soon illuminate challenges that would test every skill she had developed and every ounce of determination she possessed. The fourth week brought a new instructor whose reputation preceded him like thunder before lightning. Staff Sergeant David Chen had served 3 combat tours and held records for longest confirmed kills in 2 different theaters of operation. His arrival meant the training was about to become significantly more intense and realistic. Chen's first briefing made it clear that he considered most of the trainees unprepared for the realities they would face in actual combat situations. Elena noticed immediately that Chen evaluated each trainee with fresh eyes, unencumbered by the preconceptions that had shaped her interactions with previous instructors. His assessment was based purely on observable performance and demonstrated competency. This created both an opportunity and additional pressure, as she would need to prove herself all over again under even more demanding circumstances. The new training regimen included night operations, adverse weather shooting, and psychological stress tests designed to simulate combat conditions. Elena struggled initially with the night vision equipment, finding that her natural shooting instincts were disrupted by the artificial visual environment. However, she adapted quickly by spending extra hours, practicing with the gear until it felt like a natural extension of her senses. Chen introduced competition scenarios where trainees were paired against each other in various challenges. Elena found herself matched against Rodriguez, a veteran of 2 deployments who had volunteered for sniper training to enhance his skills. Their first competition involved a timed shooting course through a simulated urban environment. Elena's careful approach cost her time but resulted in higher accuracy, while Rodriguez's aggressive tactics yielded speed at the expense of precision. The psychological pressure of these head-to-head competitions revealed different aspects of each trainee's personality and approach to high-stress situations. Elena discovered that her tendency toward perfectionism could be both an asset and a liability, depending on the tactical requirements of each scenario. She began working on developing the ability to quickly assess when speed should take priority over absolute precision. Chen's teaching methods included detailed analysis of actual sniper missions from recent conflicts, with particular attention to decisions that had resulted in mission success or failure. These case studies provided insights into the complex factors that snipers must consider beyond simple marksmanship skills. Elena found herself fascinated by the strategic aspects of sniper operations, and began reading additional materials on military tactics and battlefield psychology. The physical demands of training intensified as well, with extended field exercises that required trainees to carry full equipment loads across difficult terrain, while maintaining readiness to engage targets at a moment's notice. Elena's smaller stature became more of a disadvantage during these exercises, as she struggled to keep pace with larger trainees carrying the same equipment loads. However, she compensated by developing superior efficiency in her movements and equipment management. Competition among the trainees grew more intense as it became clear that only a select few would advance to the next level of training. Friendships became strained by the constant evaluation and ranking of performance. Elena maintained her focus on personal improvement while observing the various ways her fellow trainees handled the mounting pressure. Some thrived on competition, while others began showing signs of stress-related performance decline. Chen implemented a buddy system for certain exercises, forcing trainees to work in pairs and depend on each other for mission success. Elena was initially paired with Thompson, one of the soldiers who had been most vocal about his doubts regarding women in combat roles. Their first joint exercise was a disaster, with poor communication and conflicting tactical approaches, resulting in mission failure. The failure prompted a difficult conversation between Elena and Thompson about their ability to work together effectively. Thompson expressed his concerns about relying on a female partner in a combat situation, while Elena challenged him to focus on demonstrated competency rather than gender-based assumptions. Their subsequent exercises showed gradual improvement as they learned to combine their different strengths and perspectives. Elena's shooting scores continued to improve under Chen's instruction, particularly in long-range engagements where her natural steadiness and attention to detail provided significant advantages. She began setting personal records for accuracy at distances exceeding 800 yards. However, Chen cautioned her against becoming overconfident, emphasizing that combat conditions would present challenges that sterile training environments could not replicate. The psychological evaluation sessions intensified as well, with more complex scenarios designed to test moral decision-making under extreme pressure. Elena faced hypothetical situations involving civilian casualties, friendly fire incidents, and missions with unclear objectives. These sessions forced her to develop frameworks for making split-second decisions when perfect information was not available, and when all available, options carried significant risks. Elena's communication with her father became more difficult as the training progressed and security restrictions increased. She found herself unable to share many details about her experiences, leaving both of them frustrated by the limitations imposed by operational security requirements. Her father's concern was evident in every conversation, though he tried to hide his worry behind expressions of pride in her accomplishments. The training facility's medical staff began monitoring trainees more closely for signs of stress-related health problems. The combination of physical demands, sleep deprivation, and psychological pressure created an environment where injuries and illnesses could develop quickly. Elena maintained her physical condition through careful attention to nutrition and recovery, having learned from her father's experience managing the physical demands of ranch work. Chen announced that the final evaluation would take place the following week and would involve a comprehensive test of all skills developed during the training program. The evaluation would include both individual and team components, with performance determining not only advancement to specialized training, but also initial assignments upon graduation. Elena intensified her preparation, knowing that this evaluation would determine whether months of sacrifice and effort had been worthwhile. As the fourth week concluded, Elena reflected on how much she had changed since arriving at the training facility. The shy uncertainty of her early days had been replaced by quiet confidence in her abilities, though she remained keenly aware of how much she still needed to learn. The respect of her fellow trainees remained incomplete, but she had proven that she belonged among them through consistent performance and unwavering determination. The fifth week arrived with an air of tension that seemed to permeate every corner of the training facility. Elena could feel the nervous energy radiating from her fellow trainees as they prepared for evaluations that would determine their futures. The morning routine continued as normal, but conversations were quieter and more focused. Everyone understood that the margin for error had disappeared completely. Chen gathered the remaining 11 trainees in the main briefing room for what he announced would be their final group instruction session. The walls were covered with tactical maps and target analysis charts that Elena had memorized over the previous weeks. Chen's expression was more serious than usual as he outlined the comprehensive evaluation process that would unfold over the next 5 days. The evaluation would consist of multiple phases, designed to test every skill they had developed during training: physical fitness, marksmanship accuracy, tactical decision-making, equipment maintenance, and psychological resilience would all be measured and scored. Additionally, each trainee would be required to complete a realistic mission simulation that would test their ability to integrate all their skills under conditions closely resembling actual combat. Elena spent the evening before the first evaluation carefully cleaning and inspecting her equipment. Every component of her rifle was disassembled, cleaned, and reassembled with meticulous attention to detail. Her ghillie suit was examined for any damage or wear that might compromise its effectiveness. She organized her gear with the precision of someone who understood that forgotten items or equipment failures could result in mission failure or worse. The first day of evaluation focused on basic marksmanship skills under increasingly difficult conditions. Trainees progressed through a series of shooting positions and distances while dealing with artificial stress factors designed to simulate combat conditions. Elena performed well in the early stages, her scores placing her among the top performers. However, the pressure of evaluation affected her timing slightly, resulting in scores that were excellent but not quite at her personal best. Jackson, who had been struggling throughout training, failed to meet minimum standards during the marksmanship evaluation and was dismissed from the program. His departure served as a stark reminder to the remaining trainees that advancement was not guaranteed regardless of how far they had come. Elena felt a mixture of sympathy for Jackson and relief that she had avoided a similar fate. The second day brought tactical exercises that required trainees to navigate complex scenarios involving multiple targets, civilian considerations, and time constraints. Elena found herself in a simulated urban environment where she needed to identify and engage specific targets while avoiding collateral damage to nearby civilians represented by cardboard figures scattered throughout the scene. Her natural cautiousness served her well during these exercises, as she took time to carefully identify targets and assess potential risks before taking any shots. Other trainees moved more aggressively through the scenarios, sometimes achieving faster completion times, but occasionally making mistakes that would have resulted in civilian casualties or missed objectives in real-world situations. Chen observed each trainee personally during these tactical exercises, taking detailed notes that would contribute to final evaluations. Elena noticed that he paid particular attention to decision-making processes and the reasoning behind tactical choices. It became clear that he was evaluating not just performance outcomes, but also the thought processes that led to those outcomes. The third day introduced team-based exercises where trainees were randomly paired and required to complete missions that demanded close coordination and communication. Elena was paired with Martinez, a quiet professional who had consistently performed well throughout training. Their assigned mission involved providing overwatch for a simulated patrol while maintaining radio contact and coordinating target engagement. Working with Martinez proved to be an excellent learning experience for Elena. His calm demeanor and clear communication style complemented her methodical approach to target analysis. They achieved one of the highest scores among the paired teams, demonstrating that effective partnerships could form quickly when both participants focused on mission success rather than personal competition. The fourth day brought the individual mission simulation that many trainees had been dreading since the beginning of training. Each person was given a different scenario that required them to operate independently while accomplishing a specific objective under realistic time constraints. Elena's mission involved infiltrating a simulated enemy position, gathering intelligence, and eliminating a high-value target without being detected. The simulation area covered several square miles of varied terrain, including dense forest, open fields, and abandoned buildings that served as the enemy compound. Elena spent considerable time planning her approach route, identifying potential observation positions, and developing contingency plans for various complications that might arise during the mission. Her infiltration proceeded smoothly, with her small size and careful movement allowing her to remain undetected while approaching the target area. However, unexpected complications arose when additional enemy personnel appeared in the scenario, requiring her to modify her original plan and find an alternative firing position that offered a clear shot while maintaining concealment. The shot itself was challenging due to wind conditions and the extended range, but Elena's preparation and steady nerve allowed her to achieve a clean hit on the designated target. Her extraction from the area required careful timing and route selection to avoid the simulated enemy response to the attack. She completed the mission successfully within the allocated time frame, though not without several moments of intense stress and uncertainty. The final day of evaluation consisted of comprehensive written and oral examinations covering everything from ballistics calculations to military law and rules of engagement. Elena had always been a strong student, and her thorough preparation showed in her test scores. However, she knew that academic performance was only one component of the overall evaluation, and that practical skills would carry more weight in the final rankings. Chen conducted individual interviews with each remaining trainee as part of the oral examination process. Elena's interview lasted nearly an hour and covered her motivations for pursuing sniper training, her assessment of her own strengths and weaknesses, and her understanding of the responsibilities and challenges she would face as a military sniper. During the interview, Chen asked Elena directly about her experiences as the only woman in the training program and how she felt gender dynamics had affected her preparation and performance. She answered honestly about the challenges she had faced, while emphasizing that she believed merit should be the only criterion for advancement in military roles. The waiting period, after all evaluations were completed, proved to be one of the most stressful experiences of Elena's life. Results would be announced in a formal ceremony the following Monday, giving trainees an entire weekend to contemplate their performance and worry about outcomes. Elena tried to maintain her normal routine while fighting off anxiety about whether her efforts had been sufficient to earn advancement. Sunday evening brought a final gathering of all trainees who had completed the evaluation process. Chen addressed the group briefly, acknowledging their hard work and dedication while reminding them that regardless of evaluation outcomes, they had all demonstrated significant growth and capability during their time at the facility. His words provided some comfort, but Elena knew that only the official results would determine her future path. Monday morning arrived with an overcast sky that seemed to mirror Elena's nervous anticipation. She had barely slept during the weekend, alternating between confidence in her performance and worry about unknown factors that might influence the final rankings. The formal announcement ceremony was scheduled for 10:00 hours, giving everyone time for morning routine and final equipment inspection. Elena dressed in her cleanest uniform and ensured every detail met military standards. Her reflection in the barracks mirror showed a young woman who looked significantly different from the uncertain recruit who had arrived 5 weeks earlier. The experience had hardened her features slightly and given her eyes a more focused intensity that spoke of newfound confidence and determination. The ceremony took place in the main auditorium, with all training staff present along with several senior officers Elena had not seen before. Captain Williams delivered opening remarks about the importance of sniper operations in modern military strategy and the high standards required for advancement to specialized training. His words emphasized that those selected would represent the finest examples of military precision and professionalism. Chen took the podium to announce the evaluation results, beginning with an explanation of the comprehensive scoring system used to rank trainee performance across all categories. Elena listened intently as he described how individual scores were weighted and combined to create overall rankings. The complexity of the evaluation process impressed her and demonstrated the thoroughness with which their capabilities had been assessed. The first announcement came as a shock to everyone present. Thompson, who had struggled with some aspects of training but showed steady improvement, was awarded the top position in the class ranking. His scores had been consistently strong across all categories, and his leadership potential had apparently impressed the evaluation team. Elena felt genuinely happy for Thompson, knowing how hard he had worked to overcome his initial skepticism about working with diverse team members. Elena's name was called as the second highest performer in the group, a result that exceeded her most optimistic expectations. The announcement brought a mixture of relief, pride, and renewed determination to prove herself worthy of the recognition. She noticed approving nods from several of her fellow trainees, including some who had initially questioned her presence in the program. Martinez finished third in the rankings, followed by Rodriguez and 3 other trainees who had demonstrated consistent excellence throughout the training period. The remaining 3 trainees, while completing the program successfully, did not achieve scores high enough for advancement to specialized sniper school and would be reassigned to regular infantry units with advanced marksmanship qualifications. Following the ceremony, Elena called her father to share the news of her successful completion of basic sniper training. His pride was evident even through the scratchy connection, and she could hear the relief in his voice knowing that she had proven herself capable of achieving her goals. However, She also detected his continued concern about the dangers she would face in her chosen career path. The transition period between basic training completion and advanced sniper school lasted 2 weeks, during which Elena was granted leave to visit home. Returning to her small hometown felt surreal after the intensity of military training. Everything seemed smaller and quieter than she remembered, and she found herself unconsciously scanning her surroundings with the tactical awareness that had become second nature during training. Her father had aged noticeably during her absence, and Elena realized how much stress her military service was placing on their relationship. They spent long hours talking about her experiences, with Elena sharing as many details as security regulations permitted. Her father listened with the careful attention of someone trying to understand a world completely foreign to his own experience. The town's reaction to Elena's military service was mixed, reflecting broader societal debates about women in combat roles. Some community members expressed pride in her accomplishments, while others questioned whether young women should be exposed to the dangers and psychological trauma associated with military combat. Elena tried to remain diplomatically neutral while defending her right to serve her country in whatever capacity she proved capable of handling. During her leave, Elena maintained her physical fitness routine and continued practicing marksmanship skills at a local shooting range. The civilian environment felt almost too relaxed after weeks of constant evaluation and pressure. She found herself missing the structured routine and clear objectives that had defined her daily life during training. Despite the stress and uncertainty that had accompanied that period, Elena's return to duty brought assignment to the advanced sniper school located at a different facility several states away. The new environment was more sophisticated than her basic training location, with enhanced simulation capabilities and access to cutting-edge equipment and technology. Her fellow students included not only graduates from her basic training class but also experienced soldiers from other military specialties seeking to develop sniper capabilities. The advanced program was structured differently from basic training, with more emphasis on specialized skills and less focus on general military conditioning. Students were expected to have already demonstrated basic competency and were now being prepared for specific operational roles. Elena found the academic content more challenging and intellectually stimulating than her previous training. Her first week at advanced school included orientation sessions that outlined the curriculum and introduced the instructional staff. Many of the instructors were active-duty snipers with recent combat experience, bringing practical knowledge that enhanced the theoretical foundations Elena had already developed. Their stories and insights provided valuable context for understanding how classroom concepts translated to real-world applications. Elena's roommate assignment paired her with Sarah Chen, a military intelligence specialist who was cross-training to develop sniper capabilities for specialized reconnaissance missions. Sarah's background provided Elena with new perspectives on the strategic applications of sniper operations beyond direct combat engagement. Their conversations expanded Elena's understanding of how her skills might be utilized in various operational contexts. The advanced curriculum included subjects Elena had not encountered during basic training, including advanced ballistics calculations, meteorological analysis, and target psychology. She discovered that successful sniping required expertise in multiple scientific and technical disciplines beyond pure marksmanship skills. The academic demands were significant, requiring extensive study time and practical application of complex concepts. Field exercises at the advanced school involved more realistic scenarios and higher-stakes simulations than Elena had previously experienced. Students worked with actual military units during training exercises, providing sniper support for infantry operations while being evaluated on their ability to integrate effectively with larger, tactical operations. These exercises highlighted the collaborative nature of military operations and the importance of clear communication between different specialties. Elena's performance during the first weeks of advanced training confirmed that her success during basic training had not been a fluke. Her scores remained consistently high, and her ability to adapt to new challenges impressed both instructors and fellow students. However, she also recognized that the competition at this level was significantly more intense, with every student having demonstrated exceptional capabilities to earn their place in the program. The psychological demands of advanced training proved to be as challenging as the technical requirements. Students were exposed to more realistic scenarios involving moral ambiguity and complex decision-making under extreme pressure. Elena found these exercises mentally exhausting but valuable for developing the emotional resilience that would be essential for actual combat operations. 3 months into advanced sniper school, Elena found herself working alongside Marcus Webb, a veteran sniper with 2 combat deployments who had volunteered to mentor newer students. Marcus had a reputation for being demanding but fair, and his approach to training emphasized practical application over theoretical perfection. Elena appreciated his direct communication style and willingness to share hard-earned wisdom about surviving in combat environments. The morning that would change everything began like any other training day. Elena was silently adjusting the rifles in the equipment room, performing the meticulous maintenance routine that had become second nature during her months of training. The early morning light filtered through high windows, casting long shadows across rows of precision weapons that represented the culmination of military engineering and tactical innovation. Marcus entered the room with his characteristic quiet confidence, observing Elena's work with the critical eye of someone who understood that equipment failure in combat meant death for both sniper and supported units. He watched her methodical approach to rifle maintenance, noting the careful attention she paid to every component and adjustment. Her technique had improved significantly since their first training session together several weeks earlier. Elena sensed his presence, but continued her work without looking up. Knowing that Marcus valued focus and attention to detail above social pleasantries, she had learned to read his moods and teaching style, understanding when he wanted conversation and when he preferred quiet concentration. This morning felt like one of his teaching moments, where observation and correction would take precedence over casual interaction. The rifle she was adjusting had been giving her trouble during recent long-range exercises. The scope mounting seemed slightly loose, affecting her accuracy at distances beyond 600 yards. Elena had requested permission to make detailed adjustments, and Marcus had agreed to supervise the process to ensure she understood proper procedures for field maintenance when armorer support might not be available. As she made final adjustments to the scope mounting, Elena became aware that Marcus was setting up some kind of demonstration or test. He positioned several targets at various distances throughout the indoor range, including some challenging shots that would require precise calculation and steady nerves. The setup suggested he had something specific in mind for their training session that morning. Marcus picked up one of the training rifles and performed his own quick inspection before loading a magazine with match-grade ammunition. His movements were economical and practiced, demonstrating the muscle memory that came from years of handling precision weapons under various conditions. Elena noticed that he was preparing for some kind of shooting demonstration, though she was not sure what he intended to teach. The indoor range had been modified to accommodate various training scenarios, with adjustable lighting, movable targets, and environmental controls that could simulate different weather conditions. Marcus activated several systems, creating a challenging shooting environment with variable lighting and air circulation that would affect bullet trajectory. Elena realized this was going to be a more complex exercise than their usual practice sessions. Marcus positioned himself at the firing line and assumed a prone shooting position that Elena had been working to perfect during recent weeks. His form was textbook perfect, demonstrating the proper balance between stability and comfort that allowed for extended periods of observation and precision shooting. Elena watched carefully, knowing that every detail of his technique had been refined through actual combat experience. The first target Marcus engaged was positioned at approximately 400 yards, a distance that represented a moderate challenge for experienced shooters but required careful calculation and execution. Elena observed his breathing technique and trigger control, noting the smooth follow-through that ensured shot accuracy. The bullet struck the target center, producing a satisfying impact that echoed through the range facility. Without pausing for celebration or analysis, Marcus transitioned to a second target positioned at a significantly greater distance. This shot required adjustments for elevation and windage that tested his ability to quickly calculate ballistic solutions under time pressure. Elena was impressed by the speed and confidence with which he made necessary corrections before engaging the target. The second shot was equally successful, demonstrating the level of skill that Elena aspired to achieve through her continued training and practice. Marcus completed several more engagements, each presenting different challenges and requiring different technical solutions. His performance was consistently excellent, providing Elena with clear examples of proper technique and decision-making under various conditions. After completing his demonstration, Marcus cleared his weapon and turned to Elena with a slight grin that suggested he had something specific in mind for her training session. His expression was challenging but not hostile, indicating that he planned to push her capabilities while maintaining a supportive learning environment. Elena prepared herself mentally for whatever test or exercise he had planned. Marcus gestured toward the firing line and suggested that Elena attempt to replicate his performance using the rifle she had been adjusting. The challenge was implicit but clear: demonstrate that her equipment preparation and shooting skills had progressed to the point where she could handle the same demanding scenarios he had just completed. Successfully, Elena felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she prepared to accept Marcus's challenge. Her equipment was properly prepared, her skills had been developing steadily, and she understood the technical requirements for the shots he had demonstrated. However, performing under his direct observation added psychological pressure that she would need to manage effectively to achieve success. As she took her position at the firing line, Elena reflected on how far her training had progressed since her early days of basic sniper school. The nervous uncertainty of her initial weeks had been replaced by quiet confidence in her abilities, though she remained appropriately humble about the challenges that lay ahead. This moment felt like an important test of whether she was ready for the next phase of her development as a military sniper. Marcus observed her preparation routine with professional interest, noting the systematic approach she used to establish her shooting position and prepare for engagement. Elena had learned to trust her training and focus on proper execution, rather than worrying about outcomes beyond her control. Her breathing was steady and controlled as she prepared to demonstrate the skills she had worked so hard to develop. The moment stretched as Elena completed her final preparations and prepared to engage the first target. Marcus's challenge represented not just a test of marksmanship skills, but also an evaluation of her ability to perform under pressure and maintain the standards expected of advanced sniper school graduates. She understood that this exercise would influence his assessment of her readiness for actual operational deployment. Elena settled into her shooting position with deliberate precision, feeling the familiar weight of the rifle against her shoulder. The adjustments she had made earlier seemed to have resolved the scope mounting issues, and the weapon felt solid and responsive in her hands. She took a moment to center herself mentally, pushing aside any distracting thoughts about Marcus's observation or the pressure of performing under evaluation. Her breathing fell into the controlled pattern that had become automatic during months of training. Elena had learned to use her respiratory cycle to enhance accuracy, timing her shots to coincide with the natural pause between breaths when her body was most stable. The technique had taken considerable practice to master, but now felt as natural as any other aspect of her shooting routine. The first target loomed in her scope, appearing deceptively simple despite the 400-yard distance that separated them. Elena calculated the necessary adjustments for elevation and windage, taking into account the air circulation Marcus had activated to simulate field conditions. Her fingers made minute corrections to the scope settings, each adjustment based on the ballistic knowledge she had absorbed during countless hours of classroom instruction. As she prepared to take her first shot, Elena became aware that other students and instructors had quietly gathered to observe her performance. Word had apparently spread that Marcus was conducting a challenging demonstration, and the shooting range had attracted an informal audience of military personnel interested in watching advanced training exercises. The additional attention added another layer of pressure, but Elena forced herself to maintain focus on the technical requirements of accurate shooting. Her first shot broke cleanly, the result of steady trigger control and proper follow-through technique. Elena maintained her sight picture long enough to observe the bullet impact, which struck the target slightly left of center, but well within acceptable parameters for the distance and conditions. The result was solid but not spectacular, representing competent execution rather than exceptional performance. Marcus nodded approvingly but said nothing, allowing Elena to continue with the exercise without interruption or commentary. His silence conveyed both confidence in her abilities and expectation that she would continue to perform at a high level. Elena appreciated his restraint, knowing that excessive coaching during practical exercises could interfere with the development of independent judgment and confidence. The second target presented a greater challenge. Positioned at nearly 600 yards with additional obstacles that partially obscured the intended point of impact, Elena studied the shot carefully through her scope, identifying the narrow window of opportunity that would allow her bullet to reach the target without striking intervening barriers. The calculation required precise elevation and windage corrections that tested her understanding of ballistic principles. She made the necessary adjustments methodically, double-checking her calculations before committing to the shot. Elena had learned that hasty corrections often led to compounding errors, while careful analysis usually resulted in first-round hits even under challenging conditions. Her mathematical background from high school had proven surprisingly valuable for the ballistic calculations required for long-range shooting. The second shot required slightly more time to execute, as Elena waited for optimal wind conditions before breaking the trigger. Her patience was rewarded with a clean hit that struck the target dead center, producing murmurs of approval from the observing audience. The success boosted her confidence while also reminding her not to become overconfident with remaining shots. Marcus stepped closer to Elena's position and pointed out a third target that had not been visible from her initial shooting position. This target was positioned at an extreme angle that would require her to adjust her shooting position significantly, while maintaining the stability necessary for accurate long-range shooting. The challenge tested not only marksmanship skills but also adaptability and technical problem-solving under pressure. Elena studied the new target through her scope, assessing the technical requirements for a successful engagement. The angle and distance presented a complex ballistic problem that would require careful calculation and flawless execution. Additionally, the awkward shooting position would test her ability to maintain stability and control under less than ideal circumstances. As she prepared to engage the angled target, Elena noticed that Marcus was observing her decision-making process as carefully as her shooting technique. She realized that this exercise was testing her tactical judgment as much as her marksmanship skills. The ability to quickly assess and solve complex shooting problems would be essential for operational effectiveness as a military sniper. Her repositioning process was smooth and efficient, demonstrating the movement techniques she had practiced during tactical exercises. Elena established a stable shooting platform despite the challenging angle, using available support to maximize her stability and accuracy. Her equipment management remained organized throughout the position change, ensuring that nothing was forgotten or misplaced during the transition. The third shot required the most careful calculation of the series, as the extreme angle created unusual ballistic conditions that could not be solved using standard formulas. Elena drew on her understanding of physics and trajectory analysis to estimate the necessary corrections, knowing that this type of problem-solving would be essential for success in unpredictable combat situations. Her trigger squeeze was perfect, the result of hundreds of hours of dry-fire practice and live-fire exercises. The bullet flew true to her calculations, striking the angled target with impressive precision given the difficulty of the shot. Elena felt a surge of satisfaction at successfully completing such a challenging engagement, though she maintained her composure in front of the observing audience. Marcus approached Elena's position as she cleared her weapon and began preparing her equipment for storage. His expression was thoughtful rather than celebratory, suggesting that he had observations to share about her performance. Elena waited respectfully for his feedback, knowing that his combat experience gave his opinion significant weight and value. Instead of immediate commentary, Marcus picked up his own rifle and moved to a shooting position several yards away from where Elena had been working. He began preparing for what appeared to be an even more challenging shooting scenario, positioning himself to engage targets that Elena had not yet noticed. His movement suggested that the demonstration was not yet complete. Elena watched with professional interest as Marcus prepared to engage what appeared to be an extremely difficult shot. The target was barely visible even with magnification, positioned at a distance that approached the limits of effective rifle range. Environmental conditions made the shot even more challenging, with variable wind patterns and lighting that would affect bullet trajectory and target visibility. Marcus glanced toward Elena with a grin that combined challenge and encouragement in equal measure. His expression suggested that he was about to demonstrate something that would push the boundaries of what she considered possible with their equipment and training. Elena prepared to observe carefully, knowing that she was about to witness a demonstration of expert-level marksmanship that would inform her own development as a sniper. The moment felt significant beyond the immediate training exercise, representing a transition point in Elena's development from student to practitioner. Marcus's willingness to share advanced techniques and push her capabilities suggested that he considered her ready for more sophisticated challenges and responsibilities. Elena understood that this demonstration was both a learning opportunity and a test of her readiness for the next phase of her military career. Marcus positioned himself with the fluid confidence of someone who had performed similar shots under actual combat conditions, where missing meant consequences far more serious than training failures. His rifle was a precision instrument that had been customized through years of field experience, each modification serving a specific purpose learned through practical application. Elena observed his preparation routine, noting details that differed from standard techniques taught in classroom settings. The target Marcus intended to engage was positioned at what Elena estimated to be nearly 800 yards, partially concealed behind natural cover that left only a minimal exposure window. Environmental conditions included shifting wind patterns and variable lighting that would challenge even experienced shooters. Elena realized she was about to witness a demonstration of marksmanship skills that represented the pinnacle of sniper capabilities. Marcus's breathing pattern was so controlled it appeared almost meditative, reflecting the mental discipline required for extreme precision shooting. His body position was perfectly stable, utilizing natural support points and proper bone structure alignment to minimize any movement that might affect shot placement. Elena noted how his shooting position looked effortless despite the technical complexity of maintaining such stability over extended periods. The calculation phase took longer than Elena expected, as Marcus carefully analyzed multiple variables that would affect bullet trajectory over the extended range. Wind speed and direction at various points along the bullet's path required complex mental calculations that demonstrated the mathematical skills essential for long-range shooting. Elena watched him make minute scope adjustments that reflected years of experience, translating theoretical knowledge into practical applications. As Marcus prepared to take his shot, Elena became aware that the informal audience had grown to include several senior instructors and students from other training programs. Word of the exceptional marksmanship demonstration had apparently spread throughout the facility, creating an impromptu gathering of military personnel eager to observe expert-level shooting techniques. The attention added gravitas to the moment, while demonstrating the respect Marcus had earned through his combat experience and instructional capabilities. The shot broke with perfect timing, synchronized with Marcus's respiratory cycle, and executed with trigger control that represented the culmination of years of practice and refinement. Elena watched through binoculars as the bullet traveled downrange, its flight path affected by multiple environmental factors that Marcus had calculated and compensated for in his scope settings and aiming point selection. The impact was spectacular, striking the target with precision that seemed almost impossible, given the distance and conditions. The observing audience reacted with a mixture of appreciation and amazement, understanding that they had witnessed marksmanship skills that represented the highest levels of military proficiency. Elena felt inspired by the demonstration while also recognizing the tremendous amount of work required to achieve such capabilities. Marcus cleared his weapon with practiced efficiency and turned toward Elena with the grin that had preceded his earlier comment. His expression combined satisfaction with the successful demonstration and anticipation of Elena's reaction to the challenge he was about to present. The informal audience remained attentive, sensing that the training exercise was reaching its climax. Looking directly at Elena, Marcus spoke with the casual confidence that characterized his teaching style. "Try hitting this one, rookie," he said, gesturing toward an even more distant target that Elena had not previously noticed. The target was positioned at what appeared to be the absolute limit of effective rifle range, barely visible even with maximum scope magnification, and partially obscured by heat shimmer rising from the range surface. Elena felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with nervous excitement as she realized the magnitude of the challenge Marcus had presented. The shot he was suggesting approached the boundaries of what was physically possible with their equipment and ammunition, requiring not only perfect technique but also favorable environmental conditions and considerable luck. The informal audience watched expectantly, understanding that Elena was being asked to attempt something extraordinary. Her initial impulse was to decline the challenge, recognizing that failure would be likely and potentially embarrassing in front of so many observers. However, Elena also understood that Marcus would not have suggested the attempt if he did not believe she possessed the technical skills and mental preparation necessary for success. His confidence in her abilities was both encouraging and pressure-inducing. Elena approached the firing line with deliberate composure, forcing herself to treat this as simply another training exercise despite the unprecedented difficulty and public nature of the attempt. Her equipment preparation routine remained methodical and thorough, demonstrating the professional approach that had served her well throughout sniper training. She understood that proper preparation was essential regardless of the ultimate outcome. The target was so distant that Elena needed several minutes to locate it through her scope, even after Marcus provided detailed directions for where to look. Once she identified the target, she began the complex process of calculating the ballistic solution required for such an extreme-range engagement. The mathematical challenges exceeded anything she had attempted previously, requiring her to extrapolate from known data points and make educated estimates about unknown variables. Environmental analysis revealed wind conditions that were constantly shifting, making precise compensation calculations nearly impossible. Elena realized that success would require timing her shot to coincide with a brief period of relatively stable atmospheric conditions. The wait could last several minutes, testing her patience and ability to maintain focus under extended pressure. As she settled into her final shooting position, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From her early days as the sole woman in basic sniper training through her current status as an advanced student approaching graduation, she had consistently exceeded expectations while proving that capability knew no gender boundaries. This shot represented both a culmination of her training and a symbol of her readiness for operational deployment. The scope picture revealed environmental conditions that were marginal for such an extreme shot. Elena waited patiently for wind patterns to stabilize, knowing that rushing would virtually guarantee failure. Her breathing remained controlled despite the pressure of public observation and the knowledge that this moment might define how others viewed her capabilities as a future military sniper. When the moment felt right, Elena executed the shot with all the skill and precision she had developed through months of intensive training. The trigger broke cleanly, the rifle recoiled smoothly, and the bullet began its long journey toward a target that tested the absolute limits of marksmanship possibility. Elena maintained her sight picture to observe any impact, though she knew that atmospheric conditions might prevent visual confirmation, even if the shot was successful. Several seconds passed before the spotters confirmed what Elena had achieved. The bullet had found its mark, striking the extreme-range target with precision that exceeded everyone's expectations, including her own. The observing audience erupted in appreciation, recognizing that they had witnessed something exceptional. Marcus nodded with obvious satisfaction, his grin acknowledging that his faith in Elena's abilities had been thoroughly vindicated.